Celebrities aren't helping, and why would they? In a country where the big issue now is affordability, outside of, I don't know, Springsteen and a few others, celebrities don't strike people as relatable or in touch. And what their activism mostly activates is eye roll. Celebrities don't know about the real world. Do what you do so well. Use your extraordinary talents for the noble cause of bringing relief from the problems that ribbons and pins can't fix. I know it's very important to you that you feel that you're making a difference. So let me assure you, you are. You're making independents vote Republican.
There's a noticeable trend lately where public figures seem convinced the nation is waiting anxiously for their latest political commentary. Meanwhile, many people at home are thinking, that's fine and all, but everyday expenses just went up again. That contrast captures the broader issue. A lot of households are wrestling with rising costs and constant financial pressure, while high-profile stages become platforms for sweeping moral commentary, often sponsored by premium brands. If that gap feels hard to ignore, consider supporting the channel by liking the video and subscribing, and let's continue the discussion, because this entire award season cycle feels increasingly amplified, more self-assured on the surface, yet somehow less substantive underneath. To be clear, this is not about whether celebrities have the right to speak. They do. They are citizens. They can vote, donate, demonstrate, and share their views online, whether through lengthy social media threads or carefully curated posts. The question is not about permission, it's about effectiveness. The delivery often feels so disconnected from everyday realities that the message loses impact and, at times, produces the opposite of what was intended. As comedian Ricky Gervais once suggested while addressing a room full of industry stars, being highly successful in entertainment does not automatically make someone well-positioned to instruct the broader public on complex civic issues.
But, you know, congratulations for raising awareness. The awareness you really care about, which is how wonderful you are. Ricky Gervais once told the award show crowd, "Don't use it as a platform to make a political speech. You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world."
Blunt, memorable, and arguably necessary, because many high-profile entertainers operate in a reality far removed from the people they're attempting to advise. It's not simply that they are wealthy, it's that their wealth often shields them from everyday pressures. Their environment is structured for comfort and stability. When prices rise, it rarely disrupts their routine. During economic downturns, they can step away. In periods of political tension, they have options and flexibility most people do not. Private retreats, extensive resources, and support systems make turbulence easier to manage. By contrast, many households are carefully calculating everyday purchases, weighing small decisions in ways that feel consequential. That is the prevailing atmosphere. So when someone who has not faced sustained financial strain in decades offers pointed guidance about personal responsibility or civic behavior, the message may not resonate as intended. Instead of motivating, it can come across as distant, similar to receiving financial advice from someone unfamiliar with ordinary price constraints. This is where the perspective often associated with Bill Maher gains traction. The argument is not about restricting speech, it is about reconsidering the assumption that public recognition automatically translates into broad expertise or deeper insight on complex public issues.
And of course, this is where celebrities say, "How dare you? We're citizens with just as much right to speak out." Agreed, you absolutely do. I'm just saying, don't.
Because that may be the central misconception, isn't it? The idea that professional success in entertainment automatically qualifies someone to break down economic policy, international affairs, or guide voters on civic decisions. Skill in one field does not automatically translate into authority in another. The ability to deliver an emotional performance does not necessarily mean someone understands the priorities of undecided voters in states like Ohio. And here's the more complicated point. High-profile political endorsements do not always produce the intended result. At times, they may even create resistance among the very audiences they hope to influence. In recent election cycles, numerous well-known figures publicly supported Democratic candidates, including Oprah Winfrey, George Clooney, and Beyonce. Yet many targeted voters appeared largely unmoved. Viewed from another angle, that reaction is not surprising. If someone already feels disconnected from political leadership, a public endorsement from a globally recognized entertainer may not automatically bridge that gap. Trust. is shaped by shared experience, and when lifestyles differ dramatically, persuasion becomes more difficult. Many people sense when messaging feels curated rather than organic. That perception can make activism appear less about dialogue and more about reputation management. Instead of shifting public opinion, it may reinforce skepticism. Raising awareness is one goal, but when the spotlight centers more on the messenger than the issue, audiences often notice and respond accordingly.
It's having the opposite effect of what you want. Every big name in show business came out for Kamala Harris, from Oprah to Clooney to Beyonce, and she lost every swing state. A survey of Ohio voters found Taylor Swift's endorsement actually had a negative impact, with 24% saying it made them less enthusiastic about her as a candidate.
Come on.
And before anyone suggests this is simply resentment towards celebrities, that misses the point. Audiences clearly appreciate them. That's why their work succeeds. People enjoy the films, the music, the sense of escape from everyday pressures. But enjoying entertainment is not the same as wanting entertainers to serve as ethical authorities. There's a clear distinction between admiring someone's craft and looking to them for civic direction. Those are fundamentally different relationships. It's also worth noticing how major award shows have gradually shifted in tone over the years. These events were once centered primarily on honoring performance, writing, directing, and creative achievement. Viewers tuned in to see excellence recognized. More recently, however, acceptance speeches often extend beyond the work itself into broader social commentary. Many speeches blend personal reflection with political messaging, and over time, the pattern has become fairly predictable. Audiences can often anticipate the structure before the winner even reaches the stage. Frequently, the message begins by minimizing the individual moment, then pivots into a broader statement framed as guidance or correction. The crowd responds enthusiastically. Cameras capture supportive reactions from fellow attendees. From home, though, the response can differ. Rather than feeling uplifted, some viewers feel lectured. Instead of inspiration, they perceive distance, and as though a small, privileged circle is shaping conclusions for everyone else.
Ricky's right. Celebrities don't know about the real world. So Democrats, it's great you have all the big celebs, but people see them as an arm of the Democratic Party, which they already suspect for lacking common sense. I know the celebrities mean well, and we thank them for having their heart in the right place, but just do you. Do what you do so well. Use your extraordinary talents for the noble cause of bringing relief from the problems that ribbons and pins can't fix. I know it's very important to you that you feel that you're making a difference, so let me assure you, you are. You're making independents vote Republican.
And this is where the conversation takes another turn. In many corners of the entertainment industry, causing offense is increasingly treated as the gravest mistake a creative work can make. Discomfort is often viewed as something to avoid at all costs. When a project feels bold, satirical, or intentionally provocative, the reaction can shift quickly toward caution. Rather than evaluating whether a film or show succeeds artistically, discussion often centers on whether it is risk-free. That shift is part of why the phrase, "you couldn't make that today," resonates so widely. It comes up frequently, particularly in conversations about older comedies. Whether or not one agrees with every example, there is a noticeable change in tone across the industry. Tropic Thunder is often cited as a case study, a film clearly built around satire of Hollywood excess and ego, yet still debated years later as though it crossed unforgivable lines. When Ben Stiller remarked that he makes no apologies for the film, many interpreted it as a reminder of comedy's traditional role, to push boundaries, challenge expectations, and occasionally make audiences uncomfortable in the process.
You know, when movie lovers get together these days, one phrase that comes up a lot and always makes me sad is, "Yeah, you couldn't make that one today." Top of that list is the great Tropic Thunder, which the scolds have been after for years. But in February, Ben Stiller tweeted, "I make no apologies for Tropic Thunder. It's always been a controversial movie since when we opened, proud of it and the work everyone did on it." See, people, it's not that hard.
Comedy amplifies reality. It stretches ideas, highlights contradictions, and occasionally makes audiences uneasy. And at times, that discomfort is intentional. It isn't designed to feel smooth or entirely agreeable. Satire, in particular, functions as reflection, and reflections are not always flattering. Yet in today's entertainment climate, there is a noticeable caution. Studios and executives often appear wary of misinterpretation, skeptical of context, and highly attentive to online reaction. The concern over potential backlash can outweigh the desire to take creative risks. As a result, storytelling that feels bold or unpredictable may give way to narratives that seem carefully aligned with prevailing expectations. Projects that arrive with clearly signaled moral framing are often viewed as the safest path forward. Critics argue that this approach can limit experimentation rather than expand it. Discussions around cultural sensitivity sometimes escalate quickly, especially online. A frequently cited example involves Trader Joe's and debates sparked on social media about certain product names. What began as a critique from a young online commenter developed into petitions and broader accusations, with some framing the issue in extreme terms. Ultimately, the company responded without dramatic measures. Instead of sweeping changes or public spectacle, the reaction was relatively measured, suggesting that not every online controversy translates into large-scale action.
Trader Joe's, who for years have been selling a line of ethnically themed products, trading on the name Joe. For example, they have Trader Jose's beer. So, of course, one teenager on Twitter heard the word Jose and said it was racist, and then there was a petition, and then Trader Joe's management did the right thing. They burnt down all their stores and themselves. No, they didn't. They said, you oversensitive little
And in some cases, a measured reaction may actually be the healthiest one. When every controversy is framed as urgent, genuine urgency becomes harder to recognize. If smaller disagreements are consistently described as serious harm, the language itself can lose impact. Over time, that dynamic creates fatigue. The frustration many people feel is not about kindness or basic consideration. Most individuals already value those principles, but about constant escalation and ongoing public tests of moral alignment. The expectation that everyone must continually signal perfect agreement can create tension. This becomes especially visible when a well-known figure diverges from prevailing industry sentiment. Hollywood often embraces activism, but that support can appear conditional when someone challenges widely accepted views. A frequently cited case is J.K. Rowling. Regardless of one's position on her statements, the reaction to them was significant. After she voiced opinions that departed from certain activist perspectives, she faced organized criticism, boycotts, reputational pressure, and distancing from segments of the entertainment industry. To some observers, the response resembled institutional enforcement rather than open debate. When a dominant viewpoint becomes insulated from challenge, disagreement may be interpreted less as discussion and more as violation. In that environment, creative industries can shift toward caution. Instead of asking whether a project is artistically strong, creators may first wonder whether it carries professional risk. Over time, that atmosphere can narrow experimentation and discourage bold exploration, shaping art through restraint rather than inspiration.
Powerful witch hunters now were coming from Twitter, the Ivy League, and the progressive left. J.K. Rowling used to be a villain to the right because she wrote books about witchcraft. Now she's a villain to the left because she has the crazy belief that there's more to being a woman than pronouns and lipstick.
And the implications extend beyond film. They reach into stand-up comedy as well. Comedians traditionally operate at the edge of discomfort. Their role often involves examining sensitive or awkward subjects that many people avoid discussing openly. Naturally, not every attempt succeeds. Some jokes fall flat, but historically, the response to an unsuccessful joke has been criticism, counter-speech, or simply choosing not to attend future performances, not removing someone from the stage as though a crime has occurred. The situation involving Nimesh Patel is frequently cited in this context. During a college performance, a joke, one that supporters argued was not hostile but satirical, was interrupted after objections from audience members who felt he should not have made it. That moment raised broader questions about who determines what material is permissible. The phrase "entitled to make that joke" entered the discussion. Traditionally, comedy has not operated through licensing. Art forms generally evolve through experimentation, audience reaction, and debate rather than formal restrictions. restriction. When lines are enforced through social pressure rather than dialogue, critics argue it resembles censorship expressed in softer language. Repeated incidents of that kind can create a climate of caution. Some viewers describe feeling that public humor has become more constrained. For people managing demanding jobs and everyday pressures, comedy often serves as release. If audiences feel they must evaluate every punchline through a legal or reputational lens, that release diminishes. There was also debate when Bill Maher criticized Dave Chappelle for comparing aspects of American cultural conflict to restrictions in Saudi Arabia. That comparison drew criticism from multiple perspectives. The United States has its own debates about expression, but it also maintains constitutional protections that differ significantly from formal authoritarian systems. In the US, satire directed at political leaders, religious institutions, or wealthy individuals is generally protected. In countries where dissent is criminalized, the consequences can be far more severe.
Dave Chappelle lashed out at me last month because I called him out for saying there was more free speech in Saudi Arabia than here. Well, I was right. What he said was stupid. America has many problems, including free speech issues on both left and right, but we're real different than Saudi Arabia. If you don't believe me, try opening a lesbian art gallery there.
Acknowledging differences between systems does not suggest that the United States is flawless. It simply recognizes that context matters. Addressing real issues requires clarity, not sweeping comparisons that treat every society as identical. Broad exaggerations may sound bold, but they often oversimplify complex realities. Stepping back, a broader pattern emerges. Elements of celebrity culture increasingly position themselves as moral commentators on national life, while simultaneously inhabiting circumstances far removed from the daily experiences of most citizens. Extensive wealth, private transportation, multiple residences, layers of professional management and security. These factors create a lifestyle few people can relate to directly. When individuals navigating ordinary financial pressures hear guidance delivered from that distance, the response can be muted. Many people balancing work, bills, and family responsibilities do not necessarily reject empathy or civic concern. What they resist is the perception of being instructed by someone who appears disconnected from their circumstances. That reaction is less about hostility and more about relatability. Historically, cultural shorthand has captured this sentiment. The phrase often attributed to Marie Antoinette, "Oh, let them eat cake," became symbolic of perceived elite detachment. Whether or not the quote was accurate, its endurance reflects how strongly audiences respond to perceived distance between leadership and lived experience.
Celebrities aren't helping, and why would they? In a country where the big issue now is affordability, outside of, I don't know, Springsteen and a few others, celebrities don't strike people as relatable or in touch. And what their activism mostly activates is eye rolls. Stars, they're not just like us. They're just not. They fly private. They have 5 houses all over the world.
When someone's everyday environment is marked by significant wealth and comfort, it becomes difficult to authentically represent those navigating paycheck to paycheck uncertainty. Attempts can be made, but the gap in lived experience often remains apparent, and audiences tend to notice. There is also a political irony in play. High-profile endorsements can sometimes deepen skepticism among independent voters rather than reduce it. For many observers, Hollywood does not resemble their own communities. It appears as a concentrated cultural hub, influential, well-connected, and geographically distant from large parts of the country. When figures from that environment strongly advocate for a candidate or policy, some voters do not automatically feel persuaded. Instead, they may question the intensity of the support and what motivates it. That reaction can produce resistance rather than alignment. The alternative is not silence, and public participation is part of citizenship. However, a more effective approach may involve humility and self-awareness, recognizing that influence does not automatically equal expertise. Speaking as a participant in a broader conversation, rather than as an unquestionable authority, can foster a more constructive exchange.
Please, it's okay. You're stars. We like you for who you are. Insulated divas whose talent allows you to pig out on the finer things in life, because we all need something to aspire to. But being talented, which you are, isn't the same as knowing things. or having the credibility to advise people on their politics. You rail against privilege, but you avail yourself of the greatest privilege of all, to remain clueless.
And perhaps award shows could refocus on their original purpose, honoring craft, rewarding creative risk, and recognizing the artists behind the scenes, celebrating storytelling that feels authentic rather than carefully filtered through layers of approval. Most viewers do not tune in for extended political messaging. They watch to be entertained, to experience emotion, to laugh, to escape, and to appreciate talent. When that experience shifts into repeated instruction, some audience members may begin to feel that participation depends on agreement. That shift rarely drives people away overnight. It happens gradually, through repetition, until engagement quietly declines. So here's the question for you. Does celebrity activism still meaningfully influence public debate, or has it evolved into something closer to image management? And beyond politics, is the larger cost a reduction in creative boldness as studios aim to avoid online backlash? Share your perspective in the comments. I'm genuinely interested in how you see it, and if you've stayed with the conversation this far, you already know the next step. Tap like, subscribe to the channel, and stick around. This ongoing culture debate isn't fading anytime soon. If anything, the next chapter may be even more unexpected.